sort of in more legal peril because that's where the case was active. They ended up getting new law enforcement, a new sheriff came in, and that put him in more legal peril. Somebody who was motivated to solve the case, and then he just kept running his mouth about it. Like I mean, I think maybe if he had done maybe a few fewer interviews, maybe it wouldn't have antagonized as many people as it did. But he's making a real big show of like, I was involved in this guy's murder, and nobody's ever going to do anything about it. He even says that near the end of his memoir. So I think he took a little bit too many chances to down the stretch here.
Day 2 now of testimony in the Tupac Shakur murder trial underway. Jurors hearing more audio from a 2008 police interview with Dwayne Davis. He, of course, is the man on trial for orchestrating Shakur's 1996 slaying. Prosecutors say Davis admitted to his role in the rapper's murder, but Davis has pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors say Davis was the mastermind in a revenge plot against Shakur after a mob beating of Davis's nephew. The first witness called today, a former crime analyst for the Las Vegas Police Department who was present at Shakur's autopsy, and jurors were then shown graphic photos of that. Joining me now is Matt Murphy, a former homicide prosecutor from Orange County, California. Matt, it's good to have you with us. So it's been so interesting what we're seeing, right, just on the first day and change of this trial. So much of what we heard from the defense team is that the book was a fabrication. The defense team also raising questions about the quality of law enforcement's original investigation, saying the prosecution has, in their words, no facts, and really making it clear their client lies and cannot be believed. Do you think it's going to be difficult for this jury to distinguish between fact and fiction?
Well, that's always the challenge for a jury, right? And that's really a jury's role, is to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. There's a great expression in Spanish that translates roughly into a fish always dies by its mouth. And I think this is a good example of that. The prosecution, look, the things that aren't lies is Tupac Shakur really was murdered that night. Suge Knight was also shot. The prosecution has plenty of evidence. The question, of course, is who did it. It's also important to remember that all they have to establish here is that Mr. Davis did anything to facilitate, encourage, or promote this, and according to his own story that he's told, not just in his book, but to a federal task force in 2008, and like uncountable media appearances, he handed that .40 caliber Glock handgun to the shooter to avenge basically the beatdown that we all saw on video, and that's another thing that was real, that casino beatdown. But one of the most interesting things that nobody's talking about is all of those other people in the video, as well as the other 3 men in Mr. Davis's car, the gang lifestyle of the mid-90s, and we all remember the movies and how popular it was. All of those guys are dead now. They're either dead or in prison, and almost all of them are dead. They were killed in unrelated murders. So that's something that really shows it's a road to nowhere, the gang lifestyle. You wind up in prison or dead.
Also, I mean, from the prosecution standpoint, right, tough to talk to any of those people, which is, I mean, you want those people who are around then. They're not available, which as they're building this case, some of the people who have, though, been brought in, some of the original investigators, those were some of the original witnesses who we saw yesterday, and they were talking about how difficult it was to get anybody to talk in those initial investigations. What is the strategy there for prosecutors in establishing that?
So that's typical of pretty much every gang case you do. I prosecuted gang cases for years, and that's a feature of it. And one of the things, the way the prosecution has countered that is they've alleged the gang enhancement. They've alleged that he was a gang leader, Mr. Davis was a gang leader, and what that does is by adding those substantive counts, by putting those enhancements into the actual charging document, that allows expert testimony so they can have people come in and explain what the gang culture was like and how there was basically omerta, like if you talk, you're a snitch and then you're dead. And so they've basically created a vehicle to introduce all that kind of testimony with the hopes of educating the jury and explaining why nobody was cooperating. One of the old detectives on that case, I saw a great interview where he said, they said, hey, this case has been unsolved for 30 years.